Hello, hello. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning. We are going to kick off here in just a few seconds. Thank you so much for joining. This session is awesome. And we're going to give folks just a few seconds to get in here. And while we are, some of us are newer to the community and we have not yet connected on LinkedIn. So if you would, could you drop your LinkedIn into the chat? That would be amazing. And also tell us where you're calling in from. It still surprises me to find out where you guys are based. Like some of us are actually fairly close, like neighbors. Like I found out Eden is not far from me. And someday we're going to actually get to meet in real human life and connect. And how fun will that be? Awesome. Thank you. Cool deal. And my computer just finished this huge restart. I don't know if anyone else had a big Windows update today, but I sure did. Okay. Yay. Everything is working again. All right. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for being here to talk about one of my very favorite topics, which is, of course, how to get the genius out of your brain, but then also how in the world do you start a business from it? How do you monetize it? How do you make sure that you are able to get paid doing what it is you love? So we're going to explore a couple ideas around monetization, but what I will tell you is this: there's a lot of experience and brain power in this room. I am not the end all be all by any stretch of the imagination on this topic. So as we start to explore some of the tactics around this, you may be already doing some of these very cool things. So please jump in and contribute. If you have anything to add, to offer, this is going to be more of a workshop. We're going to have plenty of time to explore how to start implementing some of these ideas and getting started. But what more than anything, what we want to do here is kind of pull back the curtain and talk you through what our experiences are in some of these things. Like community, for example. We've had this community now for 4 or 5 months, 6 months. I should know this. I don't. Group coaching, we've started working on that with cohorts. And so we actually have some great lived experience to share with you and actually try to shorten your journey to doing these things. So let's go ahead to a screen share document, which I am opening as we speak. I'm going to add a link to the chat where all my notes are. So you can be taking notes on my notes. Just if you would make a copy, and then you can have this document to use and start adding your notes as we go. Dun, 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 dun. Okay. So funny, normally I have all my tabs perfectly organized. I have everything ready to go. And I think I'm almost back there, but boy, that restart. 2 minutes till. Okay. Okay, so go ahead and click on the Google Doc in the chats and make a copy of it for your use to be able to take notes on for today. So, kicking off with this idea. What the heck is monetization anyway? Like monetization, it really does come down to it's money. I know you're shocked to hear it's money. It's driving revenue, right? So I don't want to overcomplicate this by saying, well, you now have to go be an influencer, and that's what monetization is, and you need to get paid for creating content. That is like one narrow angle of being able to do this. So just kind of like pulling apart that word and not making it feel like it's this big thing that is overdone. For me, a big part of monetization has been to get clients. It's like I will take and create content. I will use my platforms, build followership to funnel into client relationships. And that has been a really big play for me in monetization. But like when you think of the word monetization, if anyone else has a definition that they use or any thoughts around monetization, feel free to pop that in the chat or speak up and share. Stacy, of course, I'm going to throw to you occasionally, but When you think monetization, my friend, what do you think about?
How do you take what you're doing and make money off of it? Simple.
Heck yeah. So I would love us all in this community to have an eye towards what's next. You right now have a job or a career or projects that you're building or you're in transition. Most of us come to this work of personal branding and thought leadership because we have problems to solve, and those problems are revenue problems or they're opportunities. You know that more is possible and you want to impact more people. You want to connect with a greater audience to be able to get your ideas and thoughts out there. And this is a really cool way to do it. We just want to make sure that you have an eye towards like, what is that revenue going to look like along that way? So, your tactics. So thinking about which pieces you want to do, which aspects of creating, taking your genius again, and putting that into tactics. So services that can be offered, yes, consulting, group coaching, building a community like this one. Getting there though, like even before we start thinking about, well, here are the tactics. What this means though is that you know where it is your expertise is. You know what you're about, you know what you want to speak to, you have some clarity around your subject matter expertise, and you're willing to, for a length of time, a season, get specific. If you have, let's say you're growing an audience, and that audience is less certain about what you bring to the table, or sponsors or people that want to come partner with you, potential clients, they start following you, and you're kind of like in and around a lot of different things. That's a little bit tougher for people to see the business case around coming to work with you or coming to say, hey, let's do some posts together, things of that nature. So knowing that you are clear about what it is you want to do, but also that that can change. That can change. It can totally evolve. It's not trying to narrow you in unnecessarily, but it is offering them, again, that clear business case for doing so. So what I would love to do, we're going to pop a little bit around our here we go. So let's look at some fun stuff for a second and think about, well, what would it look like to create some sponsored content on LinkedIn? So are we, anyone here starting to see posts that are branded partnership content or are tagged hashtag sponsored here on LinkedIn? It's very cool to see. We're used to seeing that on YouTube, on Instagram, on other channels, but to be able to see it here on LinkedIn, this is fairly new. So if you go over to LinkedIn and stick in hashtag sponsored, it's fun to get to see what we see. I love this example here. Let me let you glance through here for a second. What surprised me about this post, I started a new job last month after being laid off in this crazy market. This isn't, this isn't, hey, I am the head CMO or the head of something at some very big organization, and I have a huge, she has an audience while being in transition. To me, it's like, this is a kind of a cool way, almost like to democratize the fact that like you can be wherever you are and come up with some way if you have the audience, if you have the followership. So one of the tactics we focus on is you do want to have those numbers in your audience so you can do cool things like this. Now, how do you get something like this? So Teal's AI resume builder, so we've got this partnership here. She could have approached them. You don't have to wait for someone to approach you saying, hey, Christy, we'd love to have you come and do this thing. Christy could turn around and reach to them and say, hey, here's the season I'm in. Here's what's going on in my life. I have this kind of audience, and my audience would be served well by your product. And I would love to bring your product to my audience. I propose that we do a set of like 3 posts over 3 months. And I could do this, I could highlight this. And then they have this great business case to go, yeah, this is a great idea. We should totally do this, rather than the brand having to come up with all these details on their own. So, what has to happen for a partnership like this to happen? You do the work to imagine the tools that you would like, the tools you would love already. Now, one of the things that we can also assume is there's probably some level of payment just for these posts right here. But then there's also probably some kickback for every time someone goes and purchases this tool and starts to use this service. She did not actually have to go to them to create this, though. You could, even right now, figure out the tools that you use and go and sign up to be an affiliate for any of these. So, who here uses any SaaS tool like CRM, project management, automations, almost any tools that you use nowadays have an affiliate program that you can have. You go sign up, you get a code, you get a specific link, and you can start creating content right now on your own without waiting for a brand to come to you or for you to go to that brand. How cool is that? So, Seth, would love to hear what's on your mind.
I do this now, you know, because as soon as I started consulting, it was what are all the platforms that I use? And all of a sudden I'm recommending them and I'm driving revenue. I'm being a sales rep for a company that I don't work for or get paid for. But you can, a great example for me is HubSpot. And, that's a platform I've used since 2017. And it's something I recommend to most of my clients.
Yeah.
And now if I do get someone signed up, I get 20% of their annual dues. So it's something where if you're gonna recommend something, if you're gonna talk about it anyway, you might as well get paid for it.
Absolutely. Love that.
I would just say
Yeah.
affiliate marketing and partnership marketing, that's the example, are two different things. So
Yes.
For sure.
they're part of the marketing funnel, but they're different things. So awesome, Seth. I love that. I actually do that too, but I consider that partnership marketing more than affiliate marketing. So I'd be curious, Julie,
Yeah.
what affiliate marketing looks like from a content creation standpoint.
That's a really good question, Stacey. I think I group things at a higher level and don't get so much deep into the unique ones. But what I could say is for this group here with affiliate marketing, there are certain ways to actually partner at a like kind of a lower level with organizations. So HubSpot, for example. So for their affiliates and their people, they will give you like specific talking points and more of like a media kit, and they will equip you better than others. Some of them, they will say, yes, if you'd like to share a product, here's a code, sign up, and that's it. There's not a little bit more of an in-depth partnership. So with a brand partnership on the other side, this is where you have a working relationship with them. You have distinct deliverables. You have expectations. You have numbers that you're trying to hit. There's like that engagement to go back and forth with them. But if anyone else has anything to contribute to that difference between brand and affiliates, would love to hear your thoughts.
There's kind of a little bit of a bridge there as well. There's a platform
Please.
called Partner Stack
Yeah.
where a lot of these things you can sign and you can kind of do both. Because some of them will give you the marketing kit, the badges, all those things, and some won't. Some, like you said, it's just here's a link. But
Yeah.
you can and they have a whole list of stuff that you can go through and do that is get those links and start to put out marketing or start to do Google ads based upon that. And you can generate revenue from those links. Personally, I agree with what you said, especially, to reuse the example of HubSpot is that they're giving you tools, especially if you've never literally tried to promote a product before.
Mm-hmm.
They're helping you, with that and giving you some more things to do it with. So it's, if you're creating content, now you have some things to kind of jumpstart that.
Love that. Love that. Love that. And one of the things too about if you were to go the direction of, I'm just going to be an affiliate, I'm just going to start this process of learning how to create content, highlighting different things. If if you have kind of some of those use cases too to point to when you start going towards, hey, I'm going to approach a brand, I'm going to say, hey, here's me, here's my followership, here's a little bit about my audience. Now, here's some example posts that I've done as well. And you can just show them like what it looks like to work with you, even though the other ones were just a lower level kind of entry point around that. So, but yes, disclosure is definitely important. So there's a couple ways to disclose that that's going to happen. This first one here, when you create a post now, you can actually indicate if it's a brand partnership. So like if you go over here to LinkedIn and you start a post, how many folks have seen now where you add that brand partnership label? So if you click new post and you click to your audience, down here at the bottom, go back, you can actually click brand partnership and it will tell you a little bit about it. It will publicly label it. And there you go. Using down here, you can also see she's indicated here as sponsored. There is probably going to be a link right up at the top. We used to be able to pin links, but at least we can add, like she did here, the little emoji of a pin. And here is her links, which probably again have some code attached to it so that people can track, especially on the brand side, what is the ROI of this partnership here. So this is a really cool way to get started. There's so many other ways though. This is kind of the way that we think of when we start imagining monetization, but let's go back to our list and see what other kinds of things. So if you like going here to see, they pay to be featured in your content from the platforms that you build. This is one of my favorites. This means that you're building an audience that you get to take with you to offer however you want with the most control for some of these. Like, for example, like the things where you don't have a lot of control. People will ask, like, in our thought leadership agency, hey, want to start a podcast? How can we monetize it? And one of the things they're thinking is, I want ads placed in my podcast. And I have to tell them, like, you have little to no control if you go that direction where you're letting brands drop ads in to your content. But if you come up with a few different sponsorship levels for your podcast, so like if you start one of the things that they're going to want to know are download rates, listen rates. The more eyeballs, the more ears that they have, the more likely people are going to say, yeah, that's a good use of marketing dollars. We can see paying for that to put our brand, our commercial inside of it. How many here listen to podcasts and don't hear a commercial very often? I think there's fewer and far between, right? Like they almost all have a commercial. If we can come up with ways, for example, Masters of Scale, it is one of my favorite podcast examples of how to use a commercial. Capital One has this amazing brand partnership with Masters of Scale, which is a Reid Hoffman one. Reid Hoffman is the founder of LinkedIn. And so what they'll do is they'll storyfy it. It's not just we're Capital One and we're going to talk to you about our credit card now. They'll weave in a story about an entrepreneur and the challenges that they had in their business. And then they talk a little bit about Capital One, but it's more of what we would call an advertorial. It's an advertisement, but it's got this story and this interest point behind it that's not going to just make your podcast feel trashy. Have we ever heard of the word, I think it's shill or shrill? Shill. There are YouTubers that do very little, but offer their platform as just one big advertisement. There are so many variations though between you here at the start of your journey and just feeling like you're standing up offering products to people. And so I think what keeps people out of monetization sometimes is feeling like all I do is advertise. I don't want to do that. Well, cool, do it your way. With every one of these examples, you can have the control, have the say of what happens in your content and what you're going to offer to your audience. Is it of value to them? There are perfectly awesome, respectful ways to go about this. So, any questions, thoughts, reflections on what we're talking about thus far? Okay. So going back to you building your audience and offering services, how many here, because I want to be able to customize this towards what you're wondering about, but on the client side, on the services that you offer side, how many are thinking about doing that within the next year? Whether it's group coaching, classes, community, like you're offering your genius to a small group of people. Wonderful. Okay. I'll tell you a little bit about my journey with starting this and why I started it, and then would love any thoughts, questions to see what we could do to help shorten your journey here. So the service that I offer in marketing and thought leadership, it is not cheap. I think it's our lowest paid service, like that's a one-to-one service, is $850. And for most people, especially that were in career transition, that's like an audience that I cared deeply about. We could not figure out how to make it smaller, except if we went this route of like in groups, in a community. And so that was a huge answer to me. And so what I did, besides waiting years and years and years, going, oh, no one's going to come. No one's going to want this. I don't know if this is going to be useful to anyone. Who's going to sign up? What are we going to do if no one's interested? Like, those are the things that make you kind of sit and hem and haw and wait. And then one day you just realize, like, I have nothing to lose by trying. So I'm just going to try and I'm going to get brave and see. And so I went for it. And I remember too, just, very transparently, my husband was like, we're not ready. We don't have time. Like, this doesn't make sense. How is it ever going to produce any profit? But I just had this gut that, like, this is where education is going. This is where service providing is going. We have to be able to diversify. I had a gut feeling. And so we had started building an email list. So an email list is what I call your future client list. This is the thing that lets you slowly begin to nurture relationships to the point where they're ready on their timeline, not yours. You're just kind of sending out content here and there. So I took my email list and I said, hey, I'm launching this thing. I would love for you to be there. And we're going to open up with a really low intro rate to just see if this is useful. And like, please come. And they did. And slowly but surely, I have this painting over here where every 10 people that signed up, I would paint this stripe just indicating, like, look, we're getting closer. Right now, we're at about 150 members and we're starting to build out more programming. But what's been the accelerator for us is finding partnerships, finding people, first of all, like amazing teachers. You have an audience, you're engaging with that audience. And so if we can have more people with audience come and kind of come alongside this community, it's going to do nothing but grow and get stronger and be more informed by what other people are seeing too. Because if it were just me, it would be, again, so narrow. So we have cohorts going within this community. We're aiming for like between 1 to 2 a month eventually. We're trying to figure out what the revenue models is, but all of it is just looking at the market constantly. What does the market need? What are people asking for? What would be helpful? What would serve? And so on the revenue side, it still is at a place where we're putting in more than we're getting back. And so we're working to try to get to that point where, but like, it's a startup, right? Like every other startup, it's like you have to kind of figure out at what point will you hit break even? At what point will it start to produce for you? And what else can come from it? So within some of this funnel, we have met new clients for our agency, like our thought leadership marketing agency side, but I can see where it's going and it's getting better all the time. So if you're thinking starting up group coaching, starting up cohorts, starting up community, what's stopping you right now? Would love your thoughts if you have anything to contribute.
This actually was on my mind yesterday. For anybody that's familiar with the group Pavilion,
Yeah.
they had an event yesterday, and the one thing that kept sticking out to me, that it was very SaaS focused, and it feels like everything you see, influencer content, whatever, it's all SaaS based. And it's like there's an entire planet that is not based around SaaS,
Yeah.
including myself. I don't serve the SaaS market. I use SaaS, but I don't serve that market. But it's like I keep trying to. I'm sitting there. I'm like, wait a minute. Like everybody's talking about how great Pavilion is, and I was like, where's the stuff for people who aren't in SaaS? You know,
Yeah.
and honestly, I put this community in that group that it's not. It's one of the only ones, and so I've started to think about that. Like, well, is there something, and if not, is that something that I want to do?
Sweet. Yes, like this narrow focus niche audience serving just that group. Because what's really helped for us, and I know will continue to help us, is like the more narrow we can get in on the community that we serve. So people either are totally in or totally like, no, it's not for me, then great, because then we're going to show up more. Like if it's a community that serves everyone and their mother, like then it's serving nobody. Like,
Mhm.
what are you actually offering as value, and how can you meet that audience? And then how can they tell their audience and kind of be a mouthpiece to drive more? But love that, Seth. What do you think, Stacey?
Yeah, I agree. I'm also in Pavilion. To be honest, Julie, I feel like in the beginning I got a lot out of a Pavilion, but now I probably get more out of a community like yours. Seth, it is super focused on like B2B SaaS. And so I service SaaS companies and B2B and then legacy disruptors, which I don't know exactly what you do, Seth, but I consider a legacy disruptor anyone in a different industry that wants to use SaaS subscription modeling, but actually is in a completely different industry and is using technology in order to grow. And I've shifted my business in the last 2 years to more of those kind of clients. And I find that work so much more rewarding because at the end of the day, I take the principles of B2B SaaS, apply them to an industry where I'm bringing a host of knowledge they actually have no idea about. I'm seen as a complete expert, and I'm offering things like HubSpot and Partner Stack and Notion and Coda and all these cool tech tools to help them create efficiency in the business to drive more revenue at the end of the day is what I do. And I don't think there's anything out there like it from a community standpoint. And Pavilion just gotten so big, and Julie, why I appreciate this team and or I don't know community so much is Pavilion's gotten so big they forget about everyone has different needs and everything. They're just so focused. I think Seth on like exiting at some point that they've
Yeah.
like the intimacy of what it used to be because it has been around for almost a decade. It was called Revenue Collective and a different like life cycle of the company.
So interesting. Thank you guys for that feedback. That's super helpful. There are a number of cool communities out there. It is the thing right now. I remember when I first bought this domain name DIYinfluence.com. It was 3 years ago. I had no idea what I wanted to do with it yet. And part of me wishes I'd started earlier and gotten in the market earlier. But like, so what? You'll get in the market when just don't wait anymore. Like if you want to do, be close to first adopter. Don't wait until you have it all sorted out, figured out, like just start and be brave, but like find partners within that. So Jenny would love your thoughts.
So I'm just curious because I got my fractional support. Like it's crazy how good that's going right now. I'm double booking myself, so I'm starting to bring contractors on. But what I
Yay.
really want to get to, which I promised on my website I would build out by January, which is like a month and a half, is I want to get my online courses up and running. So like in your group A, I'm just trying to figure out if anybody has experience with the tools and how I actually do it tactically. I would love to connect with anyone. Oh, cool. Stacy, thanks. Thank you.
I think
Yay.
Stacy,
Love that.
you and I need to connect because we're very similar in what we're doing. And maybe
Awesome.
we could start that whole thing. So who knows?
Yeah,
Heck
Jenny,
yeah.
I'm happy to connect. The one people like just to share with the rest of us, people really like Kajabi. Like I think of it as like an LMS system.
Yeah.
But there's others, but just to share some tidbits with folks here.
Love it. Love it. Love it. If you have well, here, let me go to Wendy's question. We'd love your thoughts, Wendy, and then we'll keep on cruising.
Yeah, no, just some of my thoughts too, is I
Please.
think, along what Seth was saying, a lot of these communities are definitely focused on one or two areas. I think being in where I am in life sciences or in biotech, there's very few communities around that. So trying to figure out where to start has been a challenge. And also what would be valuable to that type of community, and how to give back some of that expertise that's in my brain. As you've seen me struggle over the last 6 months with some of that, even just trying to figure out my brand.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
a good course for you and Melissa, how to start a community. Seriously.
I love that idea.
Mhm.
Part of within our community, what next level for us looks like. And I think where I wish I had kind of started from the very beginning, Wendy, and where it has been so helpful. So Melissa, fortunately, we got to link arms close to the beginning, but I wish I had dragged her in from the get-go. And there are a couple other women that I'm starting to work with that I met through another network chief. And we're going to try to think more intentionally about building what we have here. Like Eden, for example, a great teacher. Nicole, so many insights. Like it's just trying to think of this as more of an ecosystem, and with a community trying to not do it alone. Like for most of us, it's a side business, right? Like I've got a couple hours a day, maybe a couple hours a week. Like there's not enough margin to get that acceleration early enough to move fast enough. So finding like-minded people, partnerships are not necessarily a walk in the park, right? But if you get clear on definitions, if you get clear on what it is that you're trying to do, here's your job, here's my job, don't do it alone. It's too hard. We second guess everything. We don't move fast enough. When Melissa and I decided, okay, Melissa was like, Julie, we need to raise prices. And everyone around me in the business side was like, Julie, we need to raise prices, like on the personal brand bootcamp side. And I was looking at the numbers and I'm like, of course we need to raise prices. I have the hardest time raising prices, guys. Ask Eden. How long did it take for me to just figure out what to charge? It's freaking hard for me, right? Months. It's just so like wherever you're weak, find people that are not weak in that area and let them nudge you in the right direction, and just whatever moves you forward. And so would love your thoughts, reflection, if anyone has anything. So Wendy, like for you, what would help you kind of like, what do you need to know next? Like, what's the next right move for you?
And I think that's part of it, is figuring it out, because as you said, there's a lot of shiny because of the breadth of what I've done over my career. So it's trying to get that down to what really is needed, and balancing that with actually doing some work to bring them in. So it's a lot of things to reflect on and try and plan, as you were talking yesterday about what is the 2024 plan.
Yeah.
And I know you have down here about conferences as an opportunity to partner with. So there is that, but I'm curious your thoughts on actually paying the conference to have them provide your brand and things and give you the opportunity to be seen by more people.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it depends on, if I was to start with the outcome first. How many, like if because I don't know, like I know your field, but like I don't know exactly your thing. A partnership that I'm looking at right now is I've reached out to Fractionals United, which we've talked about here in the chat. They have a really big growing, thriving community. And I'm curious to know, like, what would it look like to funnel people in between our two for a while? Is that a thing? Like, what could we do to lock arms with other communities? What can I do to get DIY influence in front of their members and maybe have something? So that idea of ecosystem is great. Now, Wendy, if I could find the right conference to go to and approach them and say, hey, I want to sponsor maybe a session. I'd like to do a session. I want to have a booth. I want to do that. Like those are money making machines for them, right? Most conferences are like there as a money making machine. But like that FaceTime is crucial. Like putting your name on stuff that won't move the needle. Like you getting to actually get in front of their attendees, you're in the hallways, you're at a session, stuff like
Mhm.
that. That's an amazing opportunity. But
Okay.
usually getting that critical mass first can be
Mhm.
really helpful. Like I probably wouldn't do that until I had like a really clear idea and I started to have a little momentum there. But one of the things that's helped about this group is that we had the party going first. So
Mhm.
like we started with boot camp. That was the reason we opened the community at all. And then it was like, oh wow, we could like keep people here. Like they could stay and like we could keep learning. And so then it was like, all right, let's go to the email list and let's start doing outreach and seeing if anyone else wants to come to the party. But like having that party going is really important.
Mhm. Okay, no, thanks.
Yeah.
If you need any insights in Fractionals United, I can talk to you offline because I'm a
I
member
think
of
that
that
might be a really
community as
interesting
well.
thing to do. I think like there's so many different pieces that we can all fill in,
Mhm.
and community is so important. Like if I hadn't been a member of this network chief, I
Mhm.
wouldn't have the people in my life that really did both have the expertise to contribute to this community as well as be in that place of need. Like that's just what I
Mhm.
need. And so you can kind of pressure test some of that according to what's working in some communities and what's not. So
Mhm.
like you figured out with Fractionals United or with Pavilion, it's like they do one thing really well.
Yeah.
Well, what else are the members saying that they need? And how can you maybe start something along outside
Mhm.
of that? So I think at the core of this, again, it's like, how do you build this strong customer journey that starts with you're here now, and here's the revenue and the life that you want, and building a path between A to Z. Like how many hours do you have to spend on this? What kind of life do you want to work from home? Do you want to work around people? What kind of work do you want to be doing? And then where can you fill in and seeing this stuff like monetization to fill in the gaps around that life to make sure that it's driving the clients, it's driving the people that you want to be around. And then just getting really freaking brave and saying, I am going to do this. Like I like to say, like nobody chooses the thought leaders today, right? Like it's the people who decide to just start. We don't have to wait for some publisher to hunt you down anymore. You don't have to wait for someone to come into you and say, hey, we'd like to have you speak. You go speak, you go start, you build, you create, you decide that what you have to contribute is valuable, and then you just go do it. Like Dory Clark is the perfect example on LinkedIn. She just started all of her stuff. Follow it, subscribe to her emails. You will love it. It is great. Another one to follow that I think is so helpful in all of this stuff is Justin Welsh. He is really, really good at simplifying the monetization journey in a lot of different respects and gets very good about it in breaking it down in email, etc. So, Seth, what are you thinking?
So to try to avoid sounding like I'm just trying to plug myself, I actually, posted something on LinkedIn about this the other day. I put the link in the chat. I'm reading a book right now, Hidden Potential from Adam Grant, if it blurted out. Anyway, and he's a professor at the Wharton School, which I'm currently enrolled in. And one of the things that just punched me in the face as I was reading this, and I've done this myself. I've always, kind of agreed with this is, if you wait to start till you're ready, you're too late. Just start now. You're going to waste time. You're never going to be actually ready. You're never going to have everything in place. You need to start getting data of what you're trying to do and refining that. This I think is really powerful. And, the illustrator Liz Fosseline does a great job throughout the book on things like this.
I saw this post, Seth, and I love this post. Ready is an illusion. I really don't think it is a thing. I think that it's all internal, right? It's not external. Like I could look at every single one of you here, new to me or the ones that I've known for a while, and I could say, you could do this course, you could create this thing, go do submissions for conferences, Stacy. It's time to do that if you're not doing it. Melissa, it's time to get those clients. Oh my gosh, like let's get the website, every single one of us. Andrea, an incredible author and speaker. Please follow her to learn how to get all of this stuff going too. Decide that what you have is worth putting out at scale. in whatever form and fashion you want to. I think like there's so many cool ways to go about it. And just know that this list is not even remotely exhaustive. You can come up with what works for you. Think of it, build it, create it, approach people, get it started. Okay. So I can always talk about all the motivational stuff, but what other questions, thoughts, ideas around this? What are you going to try? What do you want to try? What are you thinking about? Or why haven't you yet? What's stopping you? Day job? It's most of our answer.
Distraction from other shiny objects.
Yeah, absolutely. Saying no to 20 things. I was talking to an author, I can't remember who, the other day, and I said, I wish you had a podcast. I'd love to learn from you. Just why don't you have a podcast? And they said, I can't. Like, there's only so many hours in the day. I'm doing these activities instead. This is how I'm sharing insight and knowledge. And I said, respect. Like, that's smart. That's smart. So get very focused around that thing and then build a plan to work back there. Hi, welcome, Letitia.
First, for Seth, thank you so much for that comment, because I literally said that to myself the other day, and I'm like, you just need to do it. Like, there will never be a good time.
Yes.
But then it's like a deer in headlights, because it's like, okay, that's the first step. But I actually just started a podcast with 3 of my undergrad college roomies, because we're all in the fashion business. So I sent them this post because have history with Melissa. Hi, Melissa. And so I'm beginning now to look at the podcast and my expertise, and also teaching as a college professor how to combine all of those.
Yes.
And with the podcast, it was really just us college roommates talking about our 30 long year friendship, but also everything that we've learned in the industry, and realizing we have so much experience, and how can we monetize that, but also use it to educate.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I love that so much. Have you thought through kind of like what's around the content mix of things that so you mentioned, so there's podcasts, like what else are you thinking about?
There's the podcast. There's also my expertise and my expertise of teaching fashion design and merchandising on the college level. So how can I also include that and combine
Absolutely.
it with my experience in the industry?
Absolutely. So if we're thinking starting with podcast and then driving them to a class.
To the classes, but also I also consulting for businesses and for new brands or corporate clients.
Absolutely. So if I try to think of everything as like, how does it not just become a stack of stuff, but like an actual journey?
Right.
Imagining how you're going to move people step by step all the way through. So if you started with the podcast, but to get a podcast up and running, you need the audience that's going to listen to the podcast. Yes. And so if the audience starts, like, for example, with LinkedIn, but just, we can't just throw a platform in here, right? We got to know, well, what's the end goal that's going to be here? That's going to be the mix of revenue that you think you can serve really well and that people would want. And then you find out, well, what platforms are they on? And then how can you go to them, get in front of them? Starting to imagine too, like, what's that conversion point between this audience and how do you capture their information? Like, you can allure them in, like pull them in with bait, like you're fishing with a podcast that's going to a general audience, but then also sharing that to them. But like, can we pull in a little bit of email marketing here to drive that future client list, so then that you can nurture them until they're ready to start the class, and then purchase consulting around that too.
Yeah. Okay. So that's good. Yeah.
It's a lot. It's a
It is.
lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot. I'm like, and we've, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And I wish
Minimum
the other,
viable product. Just remember, minimum viable product around all of this. Asking people, what do you use for website? What was the easiest website that I could possibly do? What's the easiest email marketing? You have around you people using the tools that you are going to want to use to do it. So, like the simple workflow around this. Thank you, Andrea. So I would use for email marketing, MailerLite.
yeah.
It is the simplest email platform out there. But you also could just use email, like just regular old email, but like you need some kind of form to be able to capture those. So with MailerLite, you can create landing pages,
Yeah.
like basically a website, like website landing pages. You can create your email list. You can get that form. So if you're doing, for example, LinkedIn content here.
Yeah. And that's the thing, because
Yeah.
we have not done LinkedIn. It's on all the other podcast channels, but
Yeah.
and I've been trying to get the two partners like come to LinkedIn. So when I sent them this, they were so excited, and I told them, well, I'm going to attend, but it'll be recorded, so you all need to come in also. But yeah, thank you for
Yeah.
because
Letitia, can I ask a question?
yes.
Please.
Where is your audience?
And yeah, so we were kind of targeting it like there's three aspects because of the three owners. We have different parts of the business. Two are more corporate. One is more of handmade goods and an accessory line. So we were targeting those in the small businesses for fashion. That's how it started out.
Mm-hmm.
But are they on LinkedIn? Are they on Instagram? Like you want to go where they are.
Right.
Yep.
And that's the thing. So I'm thinking that we definitely need to be on LinkedIn because I've been saying that and pushing it. And it just occurred to me like, wait, the podcast has not been posted on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
How did you miss that?
Well, okay, so Seth's exactly right. It's like we got to go to where they are. We don't want to, so if they are on Instagram, but the only way to know is to ask, right? Ask and try, test and try. But y'all try to not go crazy, trying to be on every platform.
Yeah.
Content is good, but content is like it's first here because it's like the most outer part of that workflow that gets you to revenue, but it's almost the last thing that you want to start with. First you start, what is our product? Okay, our product is consulting, our product is classes. And then from there, well, what's the positioning? Who's it for? What's our audience? What do they want? What would they pay for it? They will tell you. They're doing probably something very similar right now, unless you are pioneering in a field. So they can talk about it. There's nothing that can replace the power of asking in focus group. And then from there, you start to figure out what's our messaging, because we want it to fit within the brands that they would already assume would be sending it. It's like you're in the shopping mall of stuff, and your store, your product should fit kind of within that brand's shopping mall. So what we call psychographics. And then from there, you start to think about, well, what's the message? What are we offering? What's the thing? And then let's get it in front of them. That's when you start doing marketing.
Thank you.
Andrea,
Yeah.
I would love your thoughts. And thank you.
Wait,
Letitia.
I just have to say one thing because I couldn't
Please.
unmute myself fast enough. Hi, Letitia. Letitia and I worked together like probably 15-ish years
Yes.
ago. So
Yes.
it's awesome to see you, and I'm excited about what you're doing.
So cool.
Bye.
So I have the opposite problem. I have like complexity to the max. So I have a course that's behind a firewall and then all these plugins for people to pay. And then it's just so complicated. And the reason I joined DIY is I thought, I used to have sort of a Wix, like a really simple Squarespace. I could do it myself. And then I sort of complexified everything. I need to strip it back So I honestly am so overwhelmed that I can't even figure out how to untangle everything. So I'm looking for,
Yeah.
what is the DIY? Like, okay, here's the basic, like, I'm going to speak at a conference with 20,000 people next week. Do I have a QR code and capture the thing? How do I say thank you? I mean, I am so complicated that I need like a band of strangers to manage it, and I want to get it DIY. That's my question.
Yeah, absolutely, my friend. Okay, so I did just add a really cool post that you got to see. It's the cussiest post ever, but so genius in terms of the where should marketing really fall. Andrea, I love that. So we start for like it's whenever we approach a conundrum like this one, I would say map it out on paper first and then build the technology, make the technology choices around it. It's kind of like when you approach like a new project management system. Don't get into the tech until you have mapped out what your process, your workflow should look like. So with going for basic free, almost free tools can help you think like, all right, if I even had just such a tiny budget, because sometimes the tools get more complex when we allow ourselves to have a big budget. So if you only have a tiny, tiny budget, it inevitably is going to be a slimmer workflow than it is. So if you put all of your coursework, all of your video content, and you just use YouTube as a library for that content, you can then embed almost anywhere with anything. So like right now we're building out on Circle a course for like just trying to take and kind of pathway some of this insight. And so I take the video of the course that I'm doing, I put it on YouTube and it's unlisted, meaning nobody else can see it, but I can then take that link and embed it into that lesson. Squarespace has been a wonderfully good website builder. I've tried them all, everyone repeatedly. So yeah, absolutely, Nicole, love that point. So Squarespace is my website. We use Circle for community. So it depends on if you need community, but like stripping away a lot of the automations in old legacy software is a really good idea. They break really easily. Anything on WordPress is breakable because of all of the stuff they allow you to do. The more you can do with anything tailored and overly customized, that's where things can get broken really easily. So on Squarespace, they only give you a little bit of functionality. MailerLite for email marketing, they only give you a little bit so you don't go drowning yourself in outdated plugins and things that can break and stuff like that. So Andrea, like what other pieces are getting tricky, sticky?
I think part of it too is where we have the course. You know, when I did it 2 years ago, the courseware wasn't really like off the shelf yet. It was still kind of in play. And then post-COVID, there's so many light versions of that. So, you know, like right now it's sort of your payment, like how do you literally pay for something and click it in and get on your calendar, all those really simple things. I have like
totally
25 things that are all expensive when you add them all up and they're all cumbersome.
Stripe for payments. Calendly will let people book consulting. Squarespace for websites. MailerLite for email marketing and forms. MailerLite and Calendly and Squarespace all connect to Stripe. It's kind of that best of breed one, I think, there for sure. Coursework is you can go big. Kajabi, big, heavy platform-ish. Also ConvertKit for next level automations for email marketing, but like MailerLite can do like those initial automations with no problem at all. What other tools do you guys love? Like love?
Questions like I've got things like HubSpot now. I've got all these like things, and I'm dealing with, you know, I'm B2B, so my core mailing list is like 5,000 people. It's not 200 million people.
So next level is HubSpot, I would say, for automations. But what are y'all thinking?
You're getting into my wheelhouse now. I could do a masterclass on HubSpot, but we don't have time for that.
Gosh, would you please? Would you please? That would be amazing. I'm
Yeah,
drowning.
yeah,
personally.
Andrea, to your point, data integrity and normalization is going to be gospel for what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be complicated. That's the beauty of HubSpot. So there's definitely a way to do that. You mentioned podcast. I use Riverside, which is really cool because it records locally. It's not going based off of your internet connection and then uploads everything to the platform. So it's full high def without any jitter or lag or whatever. So I would contribute that.
Anne would love your question, and then we'll go back to this question of like Squarespace versus Wix versus GoDaddy, and we'll chat through that real quick.
Well, I was actually going to follow up on your comment about pricing and knowing
Yeah.
about pricing. I think when you raise price, like in any category, whether it's $25 a month or $1,000 a month, like I find with myself, I almost have to do the work internally to make sure that I'm not broadcasting any uncertainty or hesitancy that creates kind of an energetic waffle in my field as I'm trying to tell the client why the price is going up to a certain level. And I think it's harder for me when I'm scaling from like 5 to 6 figure projects. The self-doubt tends to creep in.
Yeah, such a good point, Anne. Thank you for sharing that. That's so important. So for websites, I think that if you can find a buddy who's willing to show you the back end first, like trying to not just dive in alone, but also whenever you want to build a website or do anything, map it out on paper first. Try before you get into the back end of any system for anything. Just get it onto a napkin first before you do anything else, because that's where people get stuck the worst is like, oh, now I'm in the back end of Squarespace, I'm supposed to build a website, but I don't even know what my product is, and I don't really know who, don't start there. Start with the mapping out of what it is that you want to do, what you want to build, and then go find the right system for it. Oh yeah, Riverside is super cool. Riverside is great. It's like if you're going to do a podcast, you can use Riverside. You get higher resolution audio, video, but we use that for our clients. I still use Zoom for my podcast because I can still record if you have the right microphone, but also there are so many tools these days that will make your sound studio quality while we don't have to lose our Zoom filters, because Riverside makes me look old and tired. I told their product development team, I said, guys, Zoom makes me look young and rested. Fix it, please. Anyway, well, thank you all so much for this. If anyone has any other last thoughts, questions, dive in, but otherwise we'll send this recording, of course. Okay. Thank you, friends. It was wonderful to see you, and appreciate you all being here very much. Talk soon. Bye.